welcome back. My name is Paul Mount. It's Christmas Eve and I'm now finally recording the video I hoped to record a couple of days ago on my previous video, which I think was my 500 subscriber celebration. I mentioned that I was hoping to do another video later that day, depending on Posty. Posty let me down. Posty only delivered yesterday, which was Friday. So this is the first chance I've had to sit down and do this video for you of the new bits and pieces I've picked up in the last couple of weeks. It's not actually very much. As you know, I don't just do physical media itself. I do books and comics and odds and sods, and that's mainly what we have here. A couple of physical media items which might entertain you, but it's mainly books and associated stuff. Anyway, I hope you're all ready for Christmas. It's bearing down upon us, just a few hours away. Spent the last couple of days doing the last few bits of shopping that you have to do. So I thought I'd settle down tonight and do two videos. You'll see one of them at midnight. One hopefully will be up just before then. And it's show and tell. It's another episode of the section that I used to call physical media, but it wasn't so much physical media anymore. It's more books and odds and sods and bits and pieces. So that's why I thought I would treat you to a little look at some of the new bits that I've had over the last couple of weeks, really. Of course, I picked this up. This arrived from HMV, I'm thinking, or Amazon. Came on Monday or Tuesday. Of course, it's the three recent Doctor Who special episodes, the 60th anniversary specials that were shown across the 60th anniversary and weren't necessarily celebrating the 60th anniversary, which, as I've said before, is where some fans have been disappointed because they built up their own expectations. It's a nice set, 3 Blu-Rays, little booklet about other Doctor Who bits and pieces that are available, and of course it's got lots of special features, a lot of which have appeared online. I think there's a couple of exclusive bits on here, so I haven't looked at it yet, so I'm looking forward to probably catching up with it over Christmas. I also received, this is a review copy, courtesy of Starburst magazine. There'll be a review coming up very, very soon. This is the Blu-ray set of Creepshow seasons 1 to 4. This is a Shudder original series. Shudder is one of those channels that sort of sails under the radar, really. They put out lots of original films, sort of low budget, but sometimes quite inventive horror films. And this returning series, based of course on the films from the 1980s. They basically take the form of hour-long or 45-minute long horror episodes split into two sections. So the two sort of short horror stories combining into a full episode. And I've watched the first 3 series. I've started watching season 4. I really like this show. It's really good. It's very much old-fashioned sort of horror, not the sort of slash and blood and guts that you see in a lot of the slightly tedious slasher films these days. This is more practical effects, monsters, visual effects and stuff like that. It's directed, or it's brought to us by Greg Nicotero, who is the executive producer of The Walking Dead. He does lots of visual effects things. So it has very much have that old school horror vibe. And as you can see, it comes in a very nice slipcover for those of you who are obsessed about things like that. Seasons 1 to 3 in one set. This has already come out like this, and this has come out like that as season 4, the most recent series, 12 Terrifying Tales of Terror. And yeah, they're now together in a very nice box set, which I'm looking forward to tucking into very seasonably over Christmas. Those are actually the only 2 Blu-ray type things that I've picked up. I have picked up a few magazine, comic-y type things, and I'll run you through those now. And I'll be ending, oops, sorry, camera wobble there. I will end up with the thing I was waiting for this week, because that will lead into something at the very end of the video. This is a fanzine, very professional fanzine if you like, called Warp, which of course is the sound effect created by Doctor Who comic, Doctor Who magazine years ago, to signify the sound of the TARDIS lifting off and dematerializing and so on. This is a fan magazine, a sort of a very elaborate, spectacular magazine, which looks at different aspects of Doctor Who, comic strips and so on. This, for the 60th anniversary, it celebrates 60 years of An Unearthly Child, the very first episode of Doctor Who. Unfortunate timing, of course, because Steph Coburn, the son of Anthony Coburn, who wrote the original story, now won't let the BBC show this, and there's the bitter war of words going on at the moment. But this whole book celebrates that first story with a few other odds and sods in there as well. As I say, this is a magazine that comes out, I think it's fairly randomly, maybe 3 times a year, and it's... I was involved in the early days of fanzines back in the 1980s when we were photocopying and printing things on ink drums and using very basic letraset. This is the sort of stuff that you get now from professional magazines, you know, full colour, lots of lovely original illustrations and bits of artwork, colourised photographs. There's even a few comic strips in here. It's really a gorgeous little magazine, which is going to take me very long time to read, because it's I don't know how many pages it is. It's something like better part of 200 pages. So this is a weighty tome, which is going to keep me going for some time. And I wanted to point out one particular piece on here, a 6-page article, which is about Anthony Coburn, the writer of the first story, in quite a timely fashion, called The Firemaker. And this is written by a gentleman called Sean Alexander. I know Sean watches this channel. A good friend of mine lives up in Anglesey. And he does some very good pieces. And I know he's getting into doing a lot more sort of Doctor Who type stuff. Very thoroughly researched and very well presented. So, yeah, excellent magazine. I'm sure you can, if you want a copy, you can find it online, how to get hold of a copy. It's about 20 quid, but it's worth it because it's loads and loads of reading. And this special edition, which I picked up, has got a special gift. It's got a 2-sided poster with exclusive artwork of the Doctor and Co. in the junkyard, the first episode, and then a sort of a stylized action scene of the Doctor being attacked by one of the cavemen. And also it has, this is really interesting, it's got a special free DVD called A Meeting on the Common. This is so good. I've watched this. It's really well done. This is the first 20 minutes animation, and it animates the first chapter of David Whittaker's novelization of that first Dalek story. You remember, if you've got the book, you remember it's called Doctor Who and an Exciting Adventure with the Daleks. I'll put a picture of it here. And this is quite different to the original TV story. Cuts out a lot of the background. It cuts out the whole caveman story and just gets onto the Dalek story. It's a very different origin to Doctor Who, yet it has its roots in the origin that we know. And this has been animated really well. Very atmospheric. It's all set on Barnes Common in the dark. And it's really very nicely done. It's also got a couple of other bits and pieces. Interlude on Totter's Lane by Andy Lane, which has actually got the voice of Peter Purvis playing Stephen, the Doctor's companion in the 60s. And the Doctor himself, now played by Siobhan Galachan, travelling back to the junkyard where it all began, because the Doctor just wants to see Susan again. It's quite a sweet little piece. And then we've also got We Flame to Please. This is quite fun. This is a Doctor Who as if it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon of the 1960s. Very amusingly done. Extra bits and pieces. Got an interview with Waris Hussein, the director of the first story, which goes back to 2019. And some other bits and pieces. So really nice. Which is available with the special edition of Warp magazine, issue number 6. Yes, very excited about that. Speaking of Doctor Who, which I frequently do on this channel, I also picked this one up. This is Doctor Who 60 Moments in Time. This is the latest from Doctor Who magazine, or the publishers of Doctor Who magazine. It's, again, it's a very lavish magazine in its own slipcase. Again, it's about 20 quid, but I think I got it from about 16 quid from Amazon, which has, as it says, 60 significant moments from the history of Doctor Who, from the very beginning. Adventures in space and time, how it all started. Looks at various things like the DVD box sets, home entertainment videos, fan clubs, location, filming. Again, all in lavish, beautiful colour, lovely colour photographs, reproductions. It's beautiful. I haven't had a chance to read a lot of it yet, but again, it's one of those things I'm going to get into at Christmas. That's really nice. It's in some bookshops and newsagents now. I think I've seen it in a couple of Smiths. You can probably get it online as well. Well worth getting. I also picked up these two graphic novel-y type things. Picked this up. This is the latest in the 2000 AD comics collection. Not something that's of interest to me, but I saw this in Smiths and thought, got to have this. It's a comic strip version of War of the Worlds, which is, of course, one of the great science fiction stories, one of the first proper science fiction stories from H.G. Wells. This is a new comic strip version that was done for 2000 AD, a few years ago. It's really nicely done. Very vivid artwork depicting the original story. But what this also does, it then, once it's done the War of the Worlds story itself, it then jumps forward a few years and depicts what's happened to humanity since then. It's used the Martian technology to advance human life, but there's still peril from the aliens awaiting. I've read the War of the Worlds adaptation itself and started the follow-up. Very, very good. And in fact, for modern comic art, which I'm always very critical about, this is actually quite readable. So I think that's still available in Smiths now if you're interested in picking that up. Shrink wrapped as part of the 2000 AD collection from Hatchet Publishing. I also picked up this online because this is one of my favourite TV series of the year. Don't think I've talked about it on the channel, but I have written about it in a special festive column for Starburst magazine, which you can read now. And it's a series called Bodies. This was an 8-part science fiction sort of police thriller that debuted on Netflix a couple of months ago. Great cast, the likes of Stephen Graham. You can't go wrong with Stephen Graham. And this is a story about a body, the investigation into a murder. It takes place in 4 different time zones. In the late 19th century, in World War II, in 2023, and in the future, 2050. The same body is found in the same location in 4 different time zones. What connects that? How can that happen? What's the connection? It's a superb, very, very clever time travel story. It's based on this graphic novel by the late Si Spencer, who passed away many years ago. And I was writing about it for Starburst last week and thought, I'm going to pick up that graphic novel to see just how good it is. And yeah, you can see, again, very good artwork by Dean Ormston. Apologies, I'm not a massive comic book fan, so these names don't mean a lot to me. Dean Ormston, Phil Winslade, Megan Hetrick, and Tuta Latte, sorry. And it's interesting, I think they've used different styles of art for each different time zone. So I'm really looking forward. I've started reading the first few pages, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this compares to the TV series. If you haven't seen the series, and you have Netflix, seriously, you want to track it down over Christmas. It's fantastic binge TV. My final pickup is a book I've been waiting for quite a while. I knew this was coming out a few months ago, immediately bought a copy in advance, and it finally arrived this week. Anybody who's a Doctor Who fan will know, of course, about the Eagle Moss figurine collection, which lasted for something like 10 years. Eagle Moss went bust last year, so the collection was incomplete, remains incomplete, although I understand that the license has now been purchased by another company who'll be doing something with it next year. So, my bank account. Even though I said I'm not going to subscribe to it again, I know they're going to be doing things I'm going to want. So I'm going to be picking up various odds and sods here and there. Anyway, a book commemorating the original releases from Eagle Moss has arrived, and it's called Flying Onto Shelves, the Eagle Moss Doctor Who figurine book. This has been written and put together beautifully, I must say beautifully, with enormous care by Neil Corrie, who was one of the architects of the original Eagle Moss sets. And it is a very beautiful thing indeed. And it's amazing to think there is a book about Doctor Who figures. But this figurine collection is a very special thing. It's not plastic toys. It's not little things that fall apart. These are collectibles. These are things that you can cherish because they so beautifully commemorate the history of Doctor Who right back from the beginning. Characters, creatures, monsters, everything is represented in this enormous collection. And I've got a lot of them, as you'll see very soon. I think particularly things like Daleks and Cybermen and so on, they're really top-notch. I will say, I think some of the humanoid or human likenesses weren't always as good as you might have wanted them to be, but I think it's very hard to capture the look of an actor in this sort of thing. But anyway, this extremely lavish book runs to nearly 200 pages, and it's got page after page of designs of the various figurines, and then Neil has written pieces about how the creatures came about, how they were sculpted and moulded and differences and so on. And then there's a page at the back about things they never got around to doing. It's incredibly informative, incredibly comprehensive. Although, of course, there have been some other figures that were rescued from a warehouse in China where they've been made and they've been distributed. I haven't picked up a lot of those as yet. So those are my pickups, such as they are. Sorry, my camera is wobbling on its stand a little bit. It's not even Christmas yet. I'm not drunk. So that's what I've had so far. That's what I've picked up. Not a lot of stuff. And finishing off with the Eagle Moss book, I thought I would do over the end credits, or the end music, something which people have asked me about. I've had a couple of requests in previous videos to do a video about my figurine collection. I thought it might be a little bit dull. So what I've done, I've just taken a bit of footage of my collection. My collection isn't all in one place. It's scattered all over the place. Obviously, I've got my Eagle Moss biggies up there. I've got, because there are so many of them, they are spread everywhere. I've got a cabinet, a glass cabinet, which you see full of Doctors, Daleks, Cybermen and miscellaneous ones. I've got them upstairs with my Blu-ray collection. I've got them in various places. So what I've done today, I've taken a bit of footage of the most of them. Some are in boxes, actually. I must admit, some of the various slightly dull things from the Stephen Moffat era, I just put away. I didn't really see the point in displaying certain things. But I think for me, the iconic Doctor Who creations from the 60s and 70s, you know, a huge imagination on displaying these things. And I wanted to put them on display. And of course, the Doctors, the Daleks, and so on. The Daleks are a design classic, so you can never have enough Daleks. So this is just a sample of my figures, the main ones that are on display. You will also have to excuse the amount of dust. These things are a sod to dust, and I don't dust them as much as I should. So they are a bit worse for wear, but again, I will run a feather duster over them at some point. So that's me done. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little video, this little ramshackle video of my new acquisitions, and I hope you enjoy this look at my Eagle Moss figures on display. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.